Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you're new to me and it's the first time you're seeing my face, hello, what's up? My name is Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope it's why you're here because that's what's going to be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and the continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my weekly wrap up. This is week 4 of all my reading shenanigans. Dates are January 21st through January 27th. So if you'd like to find out what I've been up to this past week, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, so I did accomplish some stuff this week, not as much as I wanted to, getting down to the nitty gritty, but I think I can still pull it out, guys. I think I could still pull it out, so just don't give up on me just yet. But I did complete one book, and I made a dent in another one, and I started a third one. So I'm very, very happy about that. So let's just get right into the books. So the first book that I did complete was The Witch and the Tsar by Olesa Slavnikova Gilmore. This was my Black Hat Book Coven Book of the Month. For January, we did a live show. It's already been up. I will link it here in the corner for you guys if you want to go back and watch it if you guys missed it. And what the Black Hat Book Coven is, it's a book club that over here on YouTube that I'm part of with Becky from Beck Reads, Laura from a book circus, and Kristen from Kristen Craves Books, and I will link all their channels down below. And what we do is we read witchy style books. That's essentially what it is. And Becky gave me the gift of picking January's book, and I picked this bad boy. And it was well, I gave it the highest score out of all of us. Spoiler alert. But I did have a good time with it. So let's get into it. So it is a standalone. It's historical fiction. We feature the Baba Yaga. If you're not familiar with who the Baba Yaga is, she is a folklorish Russian myth of kind of a witch who eats children. That's kind of one of the lore. This old decrepit lady. Very, very loose lore about what it is. You can do further research, but she is from Russian lineage. This book also does depict graphic violence with wartime violence and murder. So yeah, it's kind of a gory one. I knew it was Russian historical fiction, so I knew there was going to be some blood and guts and gore with it, because if you read any Russian literature, it's all about death. They don't fucking end happy. They're not happy ending stories. Because like a lot of the classics do not end happy when it comes to Russian authors. They're all about offing their people. So this is no different. So quick summary, we follow the Baba Yaga, who is not the traditional Baba Yaga that we're used to hearing about. This old, decrepit lady who eats children and his house made of bones and everything like that. What we see is a fairly decent looking 30-something-year-old woman who is misunderstood and has had these rumors made up about her to kind of build up this legend. So we follow her kind of as she almost becomes the Baba Yaga of the mythical lore and literature. And as she meets, confronts, and helps defeat Ivan the Terrible, along with a death god. That is pretty much the premise of this story. There's quite a lot of stuff going on in this story, but that's pretty much what the main scope of the story is her meeting, encountering, and defeating him, along with defeating a death god, which there is a twist with the death god, so that's always a good time. What worked in this? The formatting. So the way this story is formatted is there's these little interludes. So we have our chapter headings, which are dates and everything like that, which is fine. But every once in a while, the author will throw in a portion of the book that's titled interlude. And for the life of me, I can't find one right now. Here we go, interlude. So, little interlude. This has nothing to do with what's going on in the main story, but it's like a story in of itself. So it's like another storyline. And I really enjoyed these drop moments. I felt that they helped pace the story a lot. We'll get to the pacing of the story because it's one of my things with this. But it did definitely help out with the pacing of the story, as well as giving us background that we needed and another point of view that we needed to understand how the story was going to unfold later on. I really enjoyed those. I personally enjoy when authors do that kind of stuff, whether it's within the context of the story or more broken out in like their own little chapter formats. I enjoy these random drop information bombs as long as they're utilized. I don't like it when they're just fucking handed me and they're not giving me any context whatsoever, especially in a standalone, because in a standalone, everything has to be answered. And all these drops were answered because they were pieces of this big, huge puzzle that our author was building. And I was really, really enjoying it. I had a really good time with them. I felt that they helped the story. I don't really feel like they hindered the story at all. It definitely gave some brevity because some of them were funny, some of them were painful, some of them were really intriguing, some of them were nuggets of information that had a bearing to the story, but only like a piece of the story. And the rest of it was all just really interesting back information that I personally found really interesting. So I had a great time with those. I thought they were a big hit. I don't think the other girls really cared so much about them, but I really enjoyed them, and I enjoy when authors do them. So I thought the formatting of her including these interlude sections instead of just putting them within the story, actually kind of giving it its own little like minor storyline within it, I thought it was great. I also really enjoy the historical information in the story. This is historical fiction, and I do enjoy historical fiction. So I did enjoy the historical context of this book. I did not do any further research to figure out what was really accurate or not. You can read the author's note. She definitely, she has a very decently long author's note in here explaining kind of where she got some of her information and what possessed her to go that route and everything like that. It was really interesting. But I enjoyed how she weaved this magical realism within this historical framework. Now, yes, Baba Yaga is already a mythical lore of a witch. So I knew there was going to be some kind of magical element in this. And if the Baba Yaga really existed, this could be accurate information. I don't know. But I definitely enjoyed the balance of the historical framework with what appears to be fictional elements. I thought it was a really good balance, and the historical framework worked. She didn't shy away from how fucking terrible Ivan the Terrible was. He got the name legit, okay? He did. So I enjoy that. I enjoy how she clearly gave me the setting, so I knew the time frame and the references and everything that was going on. I enjoyed that. I thought she did really, really good with it. And I personally, because I like history, did find a lot of that really, really interesting. And it does have a bearing on the story. The history element does definitely lend itself to the success of the story. It can also take away from the story depending on what kind of reader you are. So do be wary of that. But for me, it was a successful component. This book, I really enjoyed this element. And is it slightly overkill? Yes. But I personally enjoyed this because I felt like it was another element to draw more readers into this story. So the Baba Yaga is a witch, and she does a lot of charms and potions and things of that nature. Our author gave us exactly what goes in the potions and kind of what they're for and how they're made and how they were collected. I found those pieces of information fascinating. I thought that was really, really cool because I have a couple of friends who are into foraging and doing their own like herbal medicine and everything like that. And normally they probably would not pick up this book, but because that is an element included and it's a very heavy element in it, I feel like they would actually be able to keep interest in this book and be able to enjoy it. And I really enjoy when authors take kind of a really small minor element that they could easily just gloss over and say, oh, I made a charm. In my storage here, I have a serum for that. She could have easily said that and moved along, quickened the pace of the story for sure, but she didn't. She went into a little bit more depth and description and gave us a little bit more knowledge and backstory behind them. And I found this stuff really interesting because it does, that area appeals to a lot of people. And a lot of people would probably never think to pick up this book if they didn't know it was in there. So I'm really glad that it's in there, and that's one reason why I'm telling you. So if that's something that you're looking for, is books that show actual herbal medicines, or if you're looking for witchy books that actually have the potion, charm, conjuring component in it, and you're actually like seeing the science behind it and the foraging and the gathering, if that's something you're into and you look for in witchy books because it is an element of the kind of witchcraft that you enjoy reading about, pick this one up. It's chock full of it. It's a really good time. I really, really enjoy that element for sure. It's not something that I do. I don't forage, but it's something that I know a couple of my friends do, and they have a lot of enjoyment for it, and it was something I could pass on to them. So definitely enjoyed it. The romance in this story, this is not a smut book, okay? I'm just gonna straight up tell you it's not a smut book, but the romance in this definitely saved a lot of moments for this book. It does not come until the second part of the book, so you do have to kind of trudge through. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was sweet. I thought the pace of it was nice. I thought the little bit of angst that we did have was just the right amount. I didn't feel like it was overly done. I didn't feel like it was insta. And I felt like her reasoning behind not immediately jumping on board was legit for who she was. I thought it was great. I had a good time with the romance, and I kind of fell in love with the little male hero a little bit because he was awesome. I love the characteristics that he was given. I'm never going to give up on you type deal, but if you spurn me, I'm not going to sit here and take it either. Like, fuck that shit. I'm not going to be disrespected, so I liked that he had a backbone even though he cared about her. I thought it was great. The romance was fantastic in this. I had a good time with it. The whole book is not about the romance, but in the second part, the romance becomes very prevalent and a major player. So if you are looking to pick up this book, but you're a little hesitant because you've heard there's a romance, but it's not heavily involved, it is towards the end of the book, but the first part of the book, it is not. And we'll get into that, trust me. But there is romance in it, and it is sweet, it is nice, it is well done, it's well formatted, and it's a nice bit of hope for this very dark period in history and for a very normally stereotypical villainous character. It was nice to see a softer side, a more humanist side, because she is half mortal. That was really nice. I enjoyed that it was thrown in there because it definitely did help this book a lot, especially towards the end because of all the graphicness that's coming, all the drama and pain and angst in the second half. This definitely balances out for sure. The last thing that really worked in this book was the second part of this book. Now, this book is 2 parts. The first part is lacking a lot, and we'll get into it. But the second part saved it. This is one of those books that is the reason I don't DNF books. It's so hard for me to DNF books because the first part, I will straight up tell you, is very slow. It's very boring. It's not going to appeal to a lot of people. Like, I love historical fiction, and I did appreciate the first part of the book, but even I believe you could have condensed that by, like, turned half that, and it's half of the book, you could have made that a couple of chapters and then move the fuck on. It did not need to be 50% of the fucking book. I even believe that. And the second part is so strong that it gave it a 3. Because if it would just been the first part of the book, that would have been a straight 2. The second part of the book gave this a 3-star, which is what my rating of this book was 3 stars. A solid 3. So it's instances like this is the reason why I don't DNF books. Because if I would have DNF'd this when I wanted to, I would have missed out on the best part of this book, which was the whole second half. And I'm glad I did not DNF this book. I'm very, very happy that I didn't because I got to enjoy that sweet romance. I got to enjoy all that drama and that intrigue and the battle sequences and the magical realism really getting to play, this God element that was thrown in there. I got to enjoy all of that. I got to experience all of that. And if I had DNF'd it when I wanted to, because the first half was that slow, I would have missed it. So this is a great representation of a book that you just have to plow through. It's just, don't DNF it. Just keep going. It does get better. Not all books are like that. There are books where it's just like, nope, this is not going to get better. I can't deal with this. I'm moving the fuck on. Move on. But this is not one of them. At least I don't feel like this is one of them. This is definitely one of those instances when I don't DNF books, this is an example of the reason why. So, second half of this book, all the action, all the intrigue, the culminating events, but you do need the first part to understand the second half, obviously, because there are pieces in the first part, and that's where those interludes really saved that first part, because there's a lot of them in there that helped progress that first part along, for sure. Now, what didn't work, I've already kind of mentioned the first part of the story. I felt like it seriously could have been condensed to like a couple of chapters, because a whole lot of fuck all happens. Yeah, it's more just setting the groundwork. Like, it could have been like a prelude, to be perfectly honest. Condense that to maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 pages and make it a prelude. And then maybe backtrack to how before she went to Moscow for this first part, because that stuff was really interesting. But when she was actually in Moscow, it was just kind of like, what? What has this got to do with fuck all anything? Like, no. It felt like it could have been really condensed. And I feel like this book would have been stronger if it had been more condensed, that first part. Because I needed the outline of it. I didn't need half the rest of that crap. Like, I needed the big title. When you look at an outline, the big Roman numeral areas, that's all I needed from that section. And like, if I were to break that section and outline, that's the parts you need for the second part of this book. So I felt like it just needed to be condensed. And it was really slow. That first part, she didn't write any differently. And that's the weird part about this book, is she didn't write any differently. But the first part was just dragging, because there was like no real action. It was all set up. And I feel like there was supposed to be action, but it wasn't very action-y. It was just a bunch of cloak and mirrors, cloak and dagger, smoke and mirrors. That's the expression I'm looking for. Smoke and mirrors. And it was just kind of like, what? Reader's Digest version. That's all I needed for that. Thank you, Reader's Digest version. The next thing that didn't work in this book, and the other ladies in the Black Hat Book Oven, they listened to this on audio. So we had a little bit of a discussion about it. I physically read this book. There are a lot of Russian phrases in this book. Nothing wrong with having Russian phrases in a Russian historical fiction book. Absolutely nothing fucking wrong with it. What's wrong is that I didn't get a glossary of what they fucking meant. Okay? There is a glossary in this book. But it's a glossary of places and names and kind of like where, like who they are in actual history, where they're located at, kind of where they're at, and things of that nature. Not a pronunciation guide or a translation guide, okay? There's not a translation of some of the Russian phrases. And yes, I can follow through context. But some of these did not have very good context to understand what was actually going on, okay? I ended up having to look them up on Google, which, again, not a fucking problem, but it is when there's a lot of them. And there was a lot of them. I would have very much appreciated a translation guide in the back, or even like a footnote, like an asterisk footnote of what that Russian phrase meant, on the ones that she did not give context to. And I don't have a problem with foreign languages in books. I absolutely don't. And I knew going in that there was going to be Russian phrases, and I can't fucking pronounce Russian. So most of them I just felt stupid trying to read this damn thing. So I'm going to be honest, I changed half people's names because I couldn't say half their fucking names. I couldn't. Like, I didn't know how to pronounce their names most of the time until I looked them up. And I just didn't feel like doing that half the time. But I did. And the phrases were great. I thought they were awesome. But I really would have appreciated some, not within the paragraph. I don't like when they do that, when they write the Russian phrase and then literally write it in English right after, like in parentheses. I don't like that. That's annoying. But like a footnote down below that if I wanted to look it up, it's right there, or a translation guide that I could look it up, that I didn't have to physically go to another resource of my own. The author, I felt, should have provided it, because it would have endeared me more to this book. Not only, Are you telling me a really cool story, but now you're like kind of teaching me some things too? That's awesome. And I kind of, that just dampened it because there was a lot of times I had to do that. And I got kind of tired of doing it after a while, so I stopped. I was like, I don't really care that much. You're making me do it quite a bit. Quite a bit. So that was very, very unnerving. And then you top it all off with it being slow in the first part. That first part was dragging. It took a lot for me to get through it. Like I said, I don't DNF books very often, and there was a point in time where I thought I was going to DNF this book because it was dragging so much. But I'm glad I didn't, because the ending, that second part was dope. I enjoyed that second part a lot, for sure. Now, this is not a smut book, but we do have a spice rating because we do have a little bit of a romance. And I gave this a single chili pepper. We have a couple fade to black scenes, which is fine. It's fine. This is historical fiction. I don't have to have smut in every single book. But not gonna lie, kind of wish it was a little bit more open door, because it was so open door with the graphicness of the violence that Ivan the Terrible committed against his own people. I mean, blatantly talking about, you know, monks being staked in front of their own churches and heads being impaled, and like graphic, and, you know, women and children being chained and then, you know, like mowed down in a fucking field with some snow over them. I mean, pretty graphic looking scenes. You couldn't give me a fucking... You couldn't give me... Really? You can give me that. But you can't give me open door. Rude. Rude. Just saying. Might have got an extra half star for that one. Would have appreciated it. Just saying. But again, that live show will be linked. It was linked in the corner, and it'll be in the down box below. So if you'd like to go see us discuss this even more further, and see what the other girls had to say about it, if you missed it, it will be down there. But yeah, I gave this a 3-star. I do plan on maybe continuing with this author. She's having another book release this year. I believe they said it was in October, and it's another one set in Russia. It's like Ghosts of Moscow or something like that. I'll put it here if I can find an image. So that's the next book coming out. It's not in the series. It's not a series, but I did like the way she wrote. I thought she had a very lyrical way of writing. So I'd like to see. I like to give her another chance. But if that book starts off slow like this one did, I can give you your first part of the book is slow and the second part saves it. But if every single one of your books is like that, no. Because I know you have the chops to keep my interest because you did it. The second half, couldn't put this thing down. Want to know why I couldn't put this thing down the second half? Because I finished this book on Saturday. And I read 300 pages of a 400-page book in a day. In a matter of 6 hours. So, bitch can write a story to keep you entertained. Yes, she can. So, there is no excuse to have as slow a start as this book had. So, if this next book does the same thing, I might be like, nope, not happening. Because I don't want to keep going through this. That's annoying. That's annoying as fuck. But this was her debut novel. I felt like it was a really good... I thought it was a really good debut novel. I gave it a 3. Did it knock my socks off? No. Is it slightly disappointing? Because I was hoping for a lot more from this. Like, I really thought this was going to be at least a 4. Based off of just the dust jacket and kind of my feelings towards it. So I was a little disappointed that I didn't give it a 4. But still, all in all, if you're looking for historical fiction, it's a good historical fiction book. If you're looking for Russian historical fiction, check it out. If you're looking for something for Baba Yaga, this gives you another take of the Baba Yaga. Not the traditional lore that we're used to, but like a different representation of her. And that different representation is answered for what we normally believe in, which I thought was a really good plus. I should have put that in my what worked. She gave us another viewpoint and still responded to the previous idea that most people have of the Baba Yaga. And I really enjoy when authors do that. So there's a lot of pluses going for this book, but please be warned that the first part is very, very drawn out and slow. And if you make it through that, the second half does pick it up and is very, very entertaining. But you have to make it through the first part, and you have to read the first part to really actually understand the second part. Yeah, it's one of those. So 3 stars. Wasn't bad. Could have been better. Absolutely. But I plan on picking up this author's next book just to see, because I feel like there's promise. I feel like there's promise. That was the only book I completed this week, guys. But the next book I started was Lori Wick's A Whisper in the Moonlight. I started this actually Saturday night after I finished the Witch and the Tsar. And this is the second installment to the Rocky Mountain Memory series. This is a Christian romance book. So, yeah, I went from blood, guts, and gore in Russian winter to Christian romance. Yes, I'm that person. Yeah, that's awesome. And so far, what we have featured is death of a parent on Page, forced marriage, rancher in the 1800s. But it's Christian fiction. Christian fiction that's romance, Christian romance. I thought that was really interesting that there's a forced marriage within like the first 100 pages of this book. I was like, And there's a lot of intrigue about this forced marriage. I cannot wait to actually break this one down for you guys. I'm not far enough into it where I feel comfortable really saying what's working, what's not working. But right now, if she was not a Christian romance author, this has the makings of being something pretty fucking dark. It has all the markings for it, but she doesn't go that dark. So I thought that I find that comparison really fascinating, and but I am enjoying myself with it. It's reading really fast. Lori Wick wrote Where the Wild Rose Blooms, which is the first installment in the series. And we follow Travis Buchanan, who we meet in that book for a brief moment. And I believe this actually takes place prior to that book, or it's taking place during that book. I haven't figured that out yet. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the way she writes. I forgot how beautiful Lori Wick writes. She has a very simplistic but elegant way of writing. And I really enjoy it. It's very smooth. It's super easy to follow along. And it just kind of exudes this kind of peace. Even in the traumatic moments, it's still a very peaceful. It's very, very well done. So far, it's very, very well done. And Where the Wild Rose Blooms was one of my favorite books in 2022. It was one of my favorite books prior to 2022. Because it was 5 stars then. It was 5 stars the first time I read it back in high school. So I like that this second installment is still kind of having that same feel, that same peace. But I remember that book making me cry. So I'm waiting for the drop in this one. I'm waiting for it. Let's see if it happens. But I'm still having a good time with it. It's reading really fast. I should have it done here. I should probably finish it either tonight or tomorrow for sure. So I will have more to talk about it next week in my next weekly wrap up. But yeah, I'm excited that I'm continuing on with it. And so funny part about this book is you see this cover. You see like the fogginess going on. That is what Illinois has looked like for the last week. It's been nothing but fog. It's just, we're in a perpetual cloud. And although we don't have the mountains and these pretty trees, it's still kind of ironic that I'm reading a book that literally looks like at the outside right now. So to me, that's humorous. But that's me. So. And the next book that I'm still plugging my way through is Ghost by Christina Marziatis. This is taking me a while to get through because there is so much going on. And I have to sit down and process it. And I am doing a full book review on it, so I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. So that's one reason why it's taking me as long as it is. But I am still reading things on top of it because sometimes nobody's safe in this book. There was human taxidermy within the first 100 pages. Human taxidermy. Okay? And talking ravens. And there's already been a moment that I'm so happy has happened. And I'm just waiting for it to rip my heart out. Just waiting. Actually, I'm stalling because I don't want it to rip my heart out because I know she's going to do it to me. I know she is. I know. Because that's just how she is. I love her. I love you, Christina, but you're going to rip my heart out. And James Miller scares me. I still feel targeted every time he's on the page. I'm like, I feel like there's a target on my back. Shit. But yeah, I'm still making my way through it. I'm loving it though. I have no complaints right now. I'm just absolutely enamored with this world, with these characters, the complexities of them, and the fact that I'm learning even more about this guy. Cheers to you. Yay. So yeah, I'm still pulling my way through. And when I am done, I will be doing a full book review on it because it just needs it. It warrants it. And it deserves it. So, because I just love this series. I do. I love this series so much. But that is what I worked on last week, guys. Yeah, so not a lot. And we're getting towards the end of the month, but it's okay. It's okay. We're going to take it like a goat. We're going to just roll with it and we're going to have a good time. And I am still planning the week coming up. I am planning on starting this bad boy, which I will be doing a vlog on. And I will also be starting Outlander. Outlander is a reread for me. I've already read it a bunch of times. So it is a reread for me. And the live show for the Outlander read-along isn't until the middle of February. So I will start it by the end of January, but I probably will not have it finished in January. But I'm going to try to have this one at least finished or almost all the way done by the end of January. And then I will have completed my TBR, guys. Holy crap. I know, because I just have to at least start the book. That's my thing, because I have to start it and at least be somewhat decently through it. So, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good where I'm sitting. I'm not upset. I'm not worried. I feel good. I'm right on track with my goal right now so far. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys this week. And I will see you guys all soon with another video. Bye, guys.